Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. I am very pleased to be back in the United Kingdom. I note that you have arranged for typical London weather these past 2 days, and I'm very grateful for that. I want to thank Her Majesty the Queen and the British people for the extraordinary welcome that has been extended to me and Michelle. It's a shining example of the genuine warmth and affection that our two nations feel towards one another. Since David took office last spring, I believe we've now met or spoken at least 24 times. We may be leaders from different political traditions, but on a whole host of issues we see eye to eye. We even took the same side in an epic match of doubles table tennis against some local students yesterday, and we won't rehash the results of that. The relationship between our two countries is one that's not just based on warm sentiment or common history, although those things exist. It's built on shared ideals and shared values. As David said, it is a special relationship and an essential relationship. I believe that it is stronger than it has ever been, and I'm committed to making sure that it stays that way. The successful meetings we've had and the joint initiatives we're announcing today represent the depth and breadth of our relationship. We discussed our efforts to strengthen the global recovery and create good jobs for our people. The investment relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom is the largest in the world, one that accounts for nearly 1 million jobs in each of our economies. We believe we can make that relationship even stronger with deeper cooperation in areas critical to our future prosperity, like higher education and science and innovation, areas critical to our national security, like cybercrime, and areas vital to the stability of the world, including international development. During our discussions today, we reviewed our progress in Afghanistan, where our brave servicemen and women have fought side by side to break the Taliban's momentum, and where we are preparing to turn a corner. We reaffirmed the importance of beginning the transition to Afghan lead for security this year and completing that transition by 2014. We discussed the opportunity that exists for promoting reconciliation and a political settlement, which must be an Afghan-led process. President Karzai has made it clear that he will talk to anyone who is willing to end the violence, split with al-Qaeda, and accept the Afghan constitution, and we welcome the positive cooperation between Afghanistan and Pakistan on that front. At the same time, the Prime Minister and I both agree that our nations have a long-term interest in ensuring that Afghanistan never again becomes a launching pad for attacks against our people. So alongside our NATO allies and partners, we're committed to a strong and enduring partnership with the people of Afghanistan. As historic change unfolds across the Middle East and North Africa, we agree that the pursuit of self-determination must be driven by the peoples of the region and not imposed from the outside. But we are both committed to doing everything that we can to support peoples who reach for democracy and leaders who implement democratic reform. Tomorrow, we'll discuss with our G8 partners how those of us in the wider international community can best support nations that make the reforms necessary to build the framework for democracy, freedom, and prosperity for their people. At the same time, we will continue to strongly oppose the use of violence against protesters and any efforts to silence those who yearn for freedom and dignity and basic human rights. And that's one of the reasons that we are working together in Libya, alongside with our NATO allies and partners to protect the Libyan people. And we will continue those operations until Gaddafi's attacks on civilians cease. Time is working against Gaddafi, and he must step down from power and leave Libya to the Libyan people. We also discussed the situation in Syria, where the Syrian people have shown great courage in their demands for a democratic transition. The United States welcomes the EU's decision to impose sanctions on President Assad, and we're increasing pressure on him and his regime in order to end his policy of repression and begin the change that people seek. We discussed Yemen, where the Yemeni people call for greater opportunity and prosperity and a nation that is more unified and more secure, and we expressed our joint concern of the deteriorating situation on the ground there. We applauded the leadership of the Gulf Cooperation Council in seeking an orderly and peaceful resolution to the crisis, and we call on President Saleh to move immediately on his commitment to transfer power. And at a time when so many in the region are casting off the burdens of the past, we agree that the push for a lasting peace that ends the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and resolves all claims is more urgent than ever. I appreciate the Prime Minister's support for the principles that I laid out last week on borders and security, which can provide a sound basis from which the two sides can negotiate. As increasing tensions in Abyei region threaten to derail Sudan's comprehensive peace agreement, we're working closely together to encourage the parties to recommit to a peaceful resolution to the crisis and calling on the rapid reinforcement of the UN's peacekeeping presence in the region. We also reviewed our close cooperation when it comes to countering terrorist threats, preventing the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and the means of their delivery to states like Iran, and our unrelenting efforts to keep our people safe. And finally, we launched a joint initiative to exchange the best ideas and practices when it comes to supporting our veterans and our military families. Today, before we came here, Michelle and I joined David and Samantha for a outstanding barbecue at number 10 for active duty members of our militaries, along with their spouses, who make extraordinary sacrifices as well. It was a wonderful event and a moving reminder of the long line of American and British service members who've made heavy and heroic sacrifices in the joint defense of our shared values that our people hold so dear. So, Mr. Prime Minister, thank you not only for the barbecue, but for the opportunity to spend this very productive time at number 10 with you and your team. I enjoy my visits here as always, and I have confidence that our special relationship will continue to grow even stronger in the months and years ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad.